Welcome back to the Salt and Light Lab. I'm Michael Whitworth, and this is where we dig into Scripture, name the real tensions of trying to follow Jesus, and run some experiments on faithful living. Today we're going somewhere different, somewhere harder. We're talking about what happens when you pray and nothing happens. When you're going through something brutal and God feels a million miles away. When the silence gets so loud, you start to wonder if anyone's listening at all. Maybe that's you right now. Maybe it was you last year. Maybe it hasn't happened yet, but it will. Because if you follow Jesus long enough, you will walk through seasons where he feels absent. And nobody really prepares you for that. So let's talk about it. We're going to the Psalms today, specifically Psalm 13. It's short, only 6 verses, but it's one of the most honest passages in the entire Bible. David writes, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I take counsel in my own soul and have sorrow in my heart all the day? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me?" 4 times we see those 2 words, how long. That's not polite worship language. That's someone at the end of their rope, shaking their fist at the sky, demanding to know why God won't show up. And here's the thing. This is Scripture. This made it into the Bible, which means this kind of prayer isn't sinful. It's not a lack of faith. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's modeled for us as a legitimate way to talk to God. The Psalms are full of this. Psalm 22 opens with, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Words that Jesus himself quoted on the cross. Psalm 88 is so dark, it doesn't even have a hopeful ending. It just closes with, "Darkness is my closest friend." That's inspired Scripture. What does that tell us? It tells us that faith isn't the absence of doubt, despair, or confusion. Faith can coexist with all of that. Faith is what keeps you talking to God even when you're not sure he's listening. Now look at how Psalm 13 ends. "But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord, because he has dealt bountifully with me." Wait, what happened? Did God answer? Did the circumstances change? Well, the psalm doesn't say. There's no narrative resolution. David goes from, "How long will you forget me?" to, "I will sing to the Lord," with no explanation in between. I think that's the point. The psalm isn't about God fixing everything. It's about David choosing to trust even in the absence of resolution. He's not pretending the pain isn't real. He's holding the pain and the trust together. That's what mature faith looks like. Not answers, not explanations, just the stubborn refusal to let go of God even when God feels like he's let go of you. Here's the tension, and I want to name it honestly. A lot of the faith we've been handed doesn't know what to do with suffering. Think about the messages you've absorbed, maybe without even realizing it. If you have enough faith, God will heal you. God has a plan, so everything happens for a reason. Just pray harder and you'll feel his presence. If you're struggling, maybe there's an unconfessed sin in your life. Some of those have kernels of truth, but when you're in the pit, when you've just lost someone, when the diagnosis came back bad, when the depression won't lift, when your family is falling apart, those phrases don't help. They hurt. They make you feel like your suffering is your fault. Like, if you were just a better Christian, this wouldn't be happening. And when God doesn't show up the way you expected, you're left with 2 options. Either something's wrong with you, or something's wrong with God. And I've got to tell you, that is a brutal place to be in. Here's what I want you to know. The silence of God is not the absence of God. I can't prove that to you. I can't give you a formula that makes it feel true, but I can tell you that the people in Scripture who knew God best, David, Job, Jeremiah, even Jesus, all experienced seasons where heaven felt like bronze. And they didn't take it as evidence that God had abandoned them. They took it as part of the journey. There's an old Christian idea called the dark night of the soul. It comes from a 16th century mystic named John of the Cross, but the experience is way older than that. The idea is that sometimes God withdraws the feeling of his presence, not because he's punishing you, but because he's weaning you off spiritual milk. He's teaching you to trust him, not the feelings that come with him. That might sound cruel, but think about it this way. If you only trust God when you feel him, is that really trust? Or is it just responding to stimulus? Real trust is what remains when the feelings are gone. The silence isn't the end of faith. Sometimes it's where faith actually begins. All right, lab time. These experiments are gentler than usual because if you're in this place, you don't need another assignment. You need permission and a path forward. Experiment number 1, the honest prayer. Give yourself permission to pray like the psalmist. Not cleaned up, not polite. Tell God exactly how you feel. The anger, the confusion, the doubt, all of it. You might feel like that's disrespectful. It's not. God can handle your honesty. What he can't work with is the fake version of you that pretends everything is fine. Write it out if that helps. Journal your rawest, most unfiltered prayer. You don't have to show it to anyone, but get it out of your head and onto the page. Name it before God. This isn't about getting answers. It's about staying in the conversation even when the conversation feels one-sided. Experiment number 2, the long obedience. When God feels silent, the temptation is to stop doing the things that used to connect you to him. You stop praying because it feels pointless. You stop reading scripture because it feels dry. You stop showing up to church because you're not getting anything out of it. And I get it. I really do. I get it. I've been there. But here's the experiment. Keep showing up anyway. Not because the feelings will magically return, not because you're earning God's favor, but because faithfulness isn't about feelings. It's about direction. And as long as you're still walking toward God, even slowly, even reluctantly, you haven't let go. Eugene Peterson called this a long obedience in the same direction. It's not dramatic. It's not exciting. It's just putting one foot in front of the other when you'd rather quit. Sometimes that's all faith is. Experiment number 3, the witness. Find someone who's been through a season of suffering and come out the other side with their faith intact, and ask them about it. Not someone with easy answers. Someone who actually walked through the darkness and can tell you what it was like. Ask them, how did you hold on? What helped? What didn't help? What do you know now that you didn't know then? There's something powerful about hearing someone else's story. It won't fix your situation, but it might give you hope that the silence isn't forever, that people survive this, that faith can be refined by fire and come out stronger. Here's one thing to carry with you. Here it is. The silence of God is not the absence of God. I know it doesn't feel that way. I know when you're in the pit, that sentence sounds pretty cliche, like someone stitched it onto a pillow. But it's true. And the people who've walked this road before you, the psalmists, the prophets, the saints across 2,000 years of church history, they testify that God is present even in the darkness. Maybe especially in the darkness. You might not feel him. You might not hear him. But that doesn't mean he's gone. So if that's where you are right now, let me say this as clearly as I can. You're not failing. You're not being punished. You're not alone, even though it feels like you are. Keep talking to God, even if it feels like talking to a wall. Keep showing up, even if you're just going through the motions. Keep holding on, even by your fingernails. Because the silence won't last forever. And when it breaks, and it will, you'll look back and realize you were never as alone as you thought. That's the Salt and Light Lab for this week. This one was heavier than usual. If it hit close to home, I'm sorry you're in that place, and I'm glad you're still here. If you need to talk to someone, please do. A minister, a counselor, a trusted friend. You don't have to carry this alone. If you'd like to reach out to me, my contact information is in the show notes of this episode. Next week, we will discuss whether your ambition is honoring God or quietly replacing Him, and how to tell the difference between holy hustle and striving after wind. Until then, stay salty and stay in the conversation.